Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to our Mindful Leadership podcast with my wonderful co-host, Natasha Rocha. Hello, Natasha.
Hello, everybody.
It's nice and sunny and very green behind you. And welcome to our special guest. Today, we have Samantha Amit. Thank you, Samantha, for joining us.
Thank you,
Well,
John and Natasha, for inviting me.
absolutely. I'm going to read out your bio just very quickly here, and then I'm going to invite you to tell us a little bit more about your story and how you got to where you got to today. As well. So Samantha Amit is a former global tech leader turned executive mindful leadership and team coach, working with managers, founders, and VPs across 40 and more countries. She integrates neuroscience, emotional resilience, and practical mindfulness to guide leaders out of overwhelm, frustration, busyness into a way of leading marked by presence, confidence, and calm. She's the creator of the Mindful Act leadership model, a framework that supports leaders and teams to achieve with awareness, connect with intention, and thrive through systemic strategic influence. Samantha is also the co-author of Mindfulness at Work, the practical science of mindfulness for leaders, coaches, and facilitators, and a certified teacher of mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, since 2016. Her work focuses on growing leadership from the inside out, grounded in behavioral science, mindfulness, and neuroscience-based tools. Her approach creates measurable shifts in how leaders think, how they relate, and make decisions under pressure. Fun fact, Samantha is also a qualified reflexologist with studies in anatomy, physiology, and holistic health, and grounding influence in her leadership development work today. It's what we could talk about today, and usually our conversations just, are organic. But one of the topics we'll start with is perhaps mindfulness at work, small daily shifts that transform leadership and team culture focus, how simple micro practices improve communication, trust, and psychological safety, from reactivity to response, building mindful habits for better leadership. So welcome, Samantha. That's amazing. I can't wait to hear about your journey. Can you tell us where you got to where you are now, and the steps that it took to get there? Because it's amazing that you've been doing this since 2016, which is absolutely brilliant. So definitely ahead of the curve there, which is brilliant.
Right. Thanks, Natasha. So, should I share how I came to mindfulness?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, my accent is South African. I was brought up in South Africa. And when I was 15, um, something really hard happened to me. So I'm going to share a bit of a difficult story. I'm going to start off with that because often, we grow from things that are really difficult for us. So I'm 15 years old and it's evening, it's the weekend, and I hear this strange, like howling noise coming from my parents' bedroom. And I walk in and I see my father. He's on the ground, on the carpet, and he's like curled up in a ball and he's like crying. And that was the howling I was hearing. And for me, like I can even experience it now, it felt like the floor was like just like dissolving under me. Like I felt like, because my father for me was my security. He was, everything I looked up to. And it like someone strange was there lying on the ground, and the noise that was coming from him was like so scary. And so what had happened is that his brother, my uncle, had been killed in a car accident. And that was the police that were calling, and he had received the call. And so that was a huge turning point for me in my life. And when that happened, I decided I was gonna take control of my life. I didn't want to feel that feeling that I felt so insecure. So I decided I was going to make myself feel safe. I was going to save my family from everything. And so I married very quickly. I married early. I moved into high tech. I studied first degree, second degree, moved into high tech, moved into leadership. And I was this bulldozer, I was this great leader, and I loved being a leader. Only what happened is I didn't know how to manage my energy. And so I've seen you, Jon, you speak about energy leaks, and my energy would leak throughout the day, and I didn't have any way to even notice that I was like just giving everything out. That when I came home at the time I had already two small kids, I had no patience left for them. And so what would happen is I found myself shouting at them. I found myself seeing my kids as a disturbance. So just like a regular scenario would be, I would fetch them at 5. These poor kids were, two little kids at nursery school all day, at kindergarten, brought them home, and then instead of me being able to be present for them, I was still like, I didn't realize that I need to shift now into the mommy role. And so I was there being the perfectionist, being the leader, and I still had emails to cover. I had webinars to jump onto. And so what happened is that when my kid called me, Mommy, like I felt that this was a disturbance. And so I suffered from me shouting at them, and then in mindfulness we call it the double arrow. It wasn't enough that I wasn't being within my integrity of being a mother to them and being able. I was shouting, I was ashamed. I suffered from so much shame and guilt as a mother, and it would make me sad. And so throughout the week, I was like holding myself together at work and trying to be this like resonant leader. And everybody thought I was successful, married with 2 beautiful young kids, a second degree. But within, I was like eating myself up. And so the turning point came when I went on holiday to South Africa, because I moved to live in Israel. And what I forgot to say is, because I moved to live in Israel, I married an Israeli. My parents were in South Africa and my husband's parents were in the South, so I had no help at all. My husband was in high tech, I was in high tech. And I came home and I just felt like, I don't know, so I knew something had to shift. So I went on holiday, and my brother was there. My brother meditates. And so he called me over to meditate. And so I just started meditating every day with him. And of course, my mom was there, and, like food and the washing and everything was taken care of. And I just became like another person. Who is this person? And I said, something has to change. And so when I flew back, it took like a few days literally. And this is what happens to a lot of us. We go on holiday and the holiday finishes, and very quickly we go back into, like running on the treadmill. And very quickly I, forgot this, like, this joy and this like free being within me. And so I said, no, 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 something has to change. And so I started actually meditating 5 minutes a day. And so that was the big turning point. And I just kept at it consistently and then took courses. But that's the long, short story, how I came to mindfulness, because I started seeing shifts. I still saw that I was still shouting at my kids, but I started forgiving myself. I started telling myself, Sam, you're doing the best you can. And then slowly, slowly, I was able to stop even shouting and stop the blame cycle and stop the depression and stop managing my energy. And so all of this came out of just 5 minutes of consistent practice. It took time. Nothing is instant. The instant thing to do would be to smoke, have something, have some grass when I come home or something like that, just to relax me. But I'm into health, and so that didn't work for me. And so that's a little bit about my story. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Oh, there's so much. So I don't think I cry a lot, right? But I don't think I've cried on a mindful leadership podcast yet. And what brought me the closest, um, and just so it's in part it's prepared just in case I start crying, is the and that journey where you described you come home and you'd be shouting at your kids just resonated so much for me because in and it was a similar time frame to so it was 2015 and I'd left a company where I was a director and it was very successful and then I joined a startup and I remember and that didn't go very well and my daughter said to me as we were shopping one day, I said, I'm thinking of leaving that company. And she said, oh, that's great because maybe now you won't shout at us after work. And my heart just, and she said it with such love. My heart just melted. I was like, that is not the person that I want to be. I just don't want to be that Jon. And it was a little while later after I joined, it was Amazon for the last 8 years. It was about a year into Amazon that I started meditating each day. And I so resonate with that. It takes, especially for a stubborn person like me, it takes time and energy and effort and focus to change your personality, that clear intention of, you know what, I'm going to make that 5 or 10 minutes every day. It doesn't matter that I've got a VP presentation. I had like VP presentations, director meetings, like almost every day. And it's like, I felt guilty sometimes putting that time apart, saying first thing in the morning, get up 5 minutes early and meditate, or get up 10 minutes early and meditate. And and it was so powerful for me because it started to create this, I call it the oasis of calm, which was, my day could be really, really stressful,
Yeah.
but I would know that and there was a point in that day, there was a version of me for 10 minutes that wasn't like that. And it actually, I want to spend more time like the Jon that's, hi, it's Jon, and less like, ah, I was shouting at people. So thank you so much. And I want to go back to a word that the way you spelt it in your bio. So I wanted to ask you about business as it's spelt with an I, which you changed to busyness, which is really its true meaning, right? It's like, what do you do for business? Oh, I run around, I run around circles all day. What do you do? I'd love to hear more about your experiences of busyness and it's under it's seemingly I don't know where we went wrong as a planet, but like your feelings and experiences about what what that really is and what we could do better in what today we still call business.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Natasha read out in my first, I just want to thank you for sharing that. I think that there are a lot of parents that they suffer from being triggered. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna get to your question in a minute, but I just want to
Of
thank you
course,
because I
answer which
think
one you want.
we all lose it in different ways. And so just knowing that there is another way and it doesn't have to be only meditation. We'll speak about that today because mindfulness, there are many ways to practice mindfulness. It doesn't all have to be formal meditation, but we'll get to that later. So maybe it's connected to your question so I'm going to answer first around the busyness. So our culture is all around being busy because people think that when you're busy, you're more productive. And the thing is, actually busyness is very helpful because when you're busy, you don't have to get in touch with your feelings. You don't have to get in touch with your anger or your irritability or frustration or your disappointment or your discomfort. And so people tend to get busy and they don't know how to rest. So that's one of the things that I help leaders with, because if they want to actually be strategic, you have to slow down. Because what happens with the busyness as well is that if you do really well in leadership, then you make your way up the corporate ladder by being busy and by being focused. And usually you're very good at what you do, but you actually have to unlearn a lot of things in order to move to the next level. So say you want to move to, let's say, senior director or VP level, you need to get out of the weeds and get out of doing things and get to a new level. And for that, you need mindful leadership. And so for that, you need space. And so that's the busyness part of your question. And I'm not sure if you also asked for the business side of it, or we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we can get to it later. It's fine. That's perfect.
Yeah. That's absolutely beautiful. And you're right about there being different ways of connecting in. For me, I started hitting burnout and I thought, I need to go back to my spiritual roots and see what's happening with my chakras. I felt blocked. I felt stuck. I felt like I didn't know what was happening. And I grew up in a family that did a lot of like hands-on healing, and we're Portuguese South African. So all my terminology is in Portuguese. And I talk about typing in kind of like, um, hands-on healing, and Reiki popped up. And it was so beautiful in the sense where I went and I did, actually one of the universities in Calgary was offering it. And I went and I did it through there. And it was so funny because they give you 5 principles to work through. And one of the principles is, just for today, I will not be angry. And you talk about shouting at your children. My kids must have been about like maybe 7 and 5, 4. And I remember getting home and I was like, okay, girls, it's time to go and bath, and I said it once, I said it twice, I said it the third time. And I remember being down at the bottom of the stairs going, girls, it's time to go and bath now. And as they were walking up the stairs, I muttered, just for today, I will not be angry. And the eldest one looks at me and she goes, well, you haven't mastered that one yet, have you, Mom? And that absolutely shifted me into a laughter at laughing at myself for that, agreeing with her, but it just snapped me out of it. And it was so interesting because it's like you say, there's different ways of doing that and in those mantras. And I love that you talk about small increments, because it reminded me, because it's just for today, one step at a time, moving through this, together. And I agree, meditation, I do a lot of meditation as well in order to support that. But you're so right. I think I was reading a statistic that said 68% of leaders report like improved decision making in having a mindfulness practice, which is absolutely beautiful, because I hear a lot of leaders saying, I don't have time for that. And I think it's like one of those things, kind of like in meditation, where it's like, if you don't have time to meditate, you need to meditate twice the amount of time. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on what does mindfulness look like in business?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really important question. So there are many ways we can answer that. I'm a very practical person. So is it okay if I go the route of, how can somebody that's maybe listening to this podcast practice mindfulness? Like, how could they do it like right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that work to offer something already? Okay.
Yes. Beautiful.
So I mean, you both know the first thing is connecting to the breath, right?
Yeah.
So so just now while you're listening, you can just breathe. Yeah, beautiful. And there's no special way to breathe, just connect to the breath, maybe feeling your body in the chair. Yeah. I'm going to invite you both to open your eyes, and I just want to say it's so beautiful to watch you. Both of you immediately went into closing your eyes and the thing is that leaders today are so like they're on a high frequency, bodies, they can't just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, with you, it's a practice, you know. What you can do while you're listening, and like let's say you're in meetings, I'm in tech most of the time. The leaders that I coach, many of them are in tech, and so they're in lots of meetings, back-to-back meetings, and so they can breathe in those meetings. They can feel their feet, like now, feeling your feet on the floor, grounding yourself. Yeah. And so I have this model called the Mindful Act Leadership Model that I introduce. And so it's an acronym ACT. And the ACT stands for Achieve, Connect, and Thrive. And why I called it ACT is because mindfulness is an active practice. Like you need to be conscious to follow your breath. You need to be conscious to drop into the body. And so a lot of people think, you know, mindfulness is about rest, but it's actually not. It is taking a pause to be conscious, but then what will you do in that space? And so if I go back to the ACT model, the A stands for how can I achieve more? And that's about me and myself. I can actually show a visual if that's helpful. Would it be helpful? Should I just talk it through? I'm not sure.
Yeah, both is absolutely fine. The podcast is in some formats just audio, so feel free to
Okay,
talk
so
through.
let me just talk it through. Okay, so the A is from the ACT is for achieve. How can I achieve more? And there's the polarity there of me understanding myself, understanding my values, understanding my strengths, and how can I be my best self? But at the same time, I also need to manage my stress. Even good stress needs to be managed because stress is an inverted U. And so when I hit the top of that inverted U, my productivity is gonna start decreasing. So I want to notice what's going on with me in my body. So the achieve part is about what's going on in my thinking, you know, what's going on in my body, my sensations in my body. So even now, how does my body feel right now? And you can ask yourself, what's my energy like from 1 to 10, where 1 is low and 10 is high. So I can check that throughout the day. Like you can have a mindfulness bell that can go off on your phone that you just breathe and say, what's my energy like now? And then when I notice, oh, wait, it's a 5, 5 is low for me. So what do I need to do now? Because it's a 5. And that way, if you want to practice mindfulness and you want to just practice it with yourself, first of all, when you go home to your kid, maybe you won't be a 5. Hopefully you'll be a bit more. I mean, I used to walk in the door at like a 3 sometimes. So that's the achieve part. That's me and myself. Should I stop before continuing? Because then there's the connect and the thrive.
Go ahead.
No,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So the connect, the C is for connect, and it's all about me as a leader in my relationships. And it's about my one-on-one relationships. So it's my one-on-one meetings with my directs. It's about my one-to-many relationships with my team. And this is all work around like what triggers me. And again, I can notice my thinking. I can notice my emotions. I can notice what's going on in my body when I'm with somebody. And so maybe I'll pause and give an example of yesterday. So yesterday I'm coaching, she's, personality type A, everything's in control. She's like a amazing leader, red fire energy, like fast, fast, fast. When she came into the coaching, I had to like catch up with her. Like I'm so slow. She's like, she speaks fast. She does everything. It's hard for her to let go and delegate. and everything has to be perfect. So, of course, that resonated with me. I was the perfectionist, before. And so, what we're working on now, as an example of mindful leadership, is that she gave me an example. I didn't even tell her what to do. But before she met with one of her directs in person, actually, and what she did is she just slowed everything down. So before she went into a meeting, she didn't want to meet with the guy. And I said to her, no, let's just call her Cindy. Cindy, that's not a real name. Cindy, you're meeting with him because this is an opportunity for you to grow. But before you meet with him, I want you to pause before and decide, that's your intention, how you want to be when you're together with him. That's the connection piece. And so what she told me yesterday, I was so proud of her, is that she decided that she's going to put her negative thinking and her judgment aside, and she's going to go in with a clean slate. And she actually managed to do that because she programmed her brain to tell herself she's going to do that. And she went in and she said the conversation was completely different. And so this is mindful leadership in practice. It's she doesn't meditate. She's like always on fire. All she did different was she paused before she went into the meeting. She took a breath and she decided how she wanted to show up, that there was going to be a resonant connection. So maybe I'll pause there.
Fabulous. So I have so many memories of sitting in meetings and almost getting to the stage in my life where I realized that after 8 years of 8 to 10 hours of meetings every day, that really no time for toilet breaks. That meetings weren't really an amazing, productive way of working. They were busy. I felt so busy. It's like, look at me. I've got to go to a meeting. Oh, this is great. I'm so busy right now. Um, and I was good in meetings, but what I realized was there's this, I was in this continual repeating pattern of narrowing my judgment, narrowing my focus. Even when I was asking people for input, everyone was a bit scared of sharing what they really wanted. And that I started to realize that actually a lot of the success of my teams and also myself was not in meetings, shock horror. It was in people were coming up with ideas, to really like long-term problems. Sometimes there were multi-year problems, and they'd be out walking their dog. They would be, playing hockey the night before. They'd be chatting with a friend. They'd be playing with their kids. There would be a walk in nature, whatever it was that often wasn't work itself, or they were coffee chatting with someone else. I said, "Oh yeah, there's this idea. Why don't we do it this way?" And then that would make its way into, our team discussions and into eventually, we'd be at some point presenting a new product or something entirely new way of working. And it was with AI in software and people, and so a lot of it was very controversial for us to ethically get our heads around as well. And I started to realize that all those times I was sat in meetings and I could feel it in my chest, closing my heart down to protect myself. It was like, oh, these people are going to be so annoyed with me, and they're just going to give me a hard time about not being busy enough. And yet, what I started to realize was I really loved, Sam, you're talking about the just taking a breath. I started to realize in meetings, if I just took a breath and felt into my body, somewhere in my body, I could feel these ideas, and they're really quiet. When I was shut down, I would just make my voice so quiet so it wouldn't, I didn't want it to come out my throat and to share it. But the more I took a breath, and the more I would just look around the room, and I'd look at people, still be, visually engaged and energetically engaged with people, and just open my heart a little bit more and really, really try and listen underneath the words of what is it they're trying to say. And sometimes they were just saying, "Am I exhausted? Please let me out this meeting." Sometimes they were saying, I've got some genuine concerns about something, and they're struggling to articulate some of the emotion behind it. Or sometimes they're just, not really aligned and not really enjoying the job, and that's a whole other problem. But it wasn't really the problem or the focus of our intention of the meeting. What I was really trying to do is bring forward new ideas and solutions. And so that's really started to get me changing the way I worked, starting to become much more collaborative and seeing it try and get everyone like at least a day a week where they were just collaborating and doing the things that was gold dust. They were creating things that I could never have dreamed of and totally changed the way, to your points about strategy, totally changed the way that we worked. They were revolutionizing the way we were working just by creating that space. So all this to say, a long-winded way to say that what I eventually learned is that, and in my business since I started just over a year ago, is that when I'm a busy John and I'm running in circles on the hamster wheel as fast as I can, I am a fraction as productive as I could be if I stop, take a breath, and receive. And it's actually my ability to receive inspiration, intuitions, my gut feeling, ideas, discussing with other people. And I feel, as I say it, I feel it, this big opening of my heart. Suddenly I don't need to be busy to be productive. I can receive a lot more, and it will fundamentally change the way I work. And I was really interested in hearing a bit more about some of those experiences as well that you have with people. What did the T stand for?
The T is for thrive.
The
That's the
thrive. Fantastic.
business, yes.
I think that's what I'm asking is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
thriving aspect.
yeah,
How does it feel when you're thriving?
yeah. So, it's very interesting because I myself I have evolved a lot since I even created the model. So initially the thrive was supposed to be for me thriving, and it was the whole work-life balance thing.
Mm.
And then I realized the more I grew as a person, because I'm now also a team coach, that the thrive isn't about me. The thrive is all about we. Because when we are thriving, it's so much more powerful. And I just got goosebumps now.
Yay.
Like, look how amazing it is that you're doing the podcast together, right? Like for me, or everybody that I'm working with, they're all working together. They're all collaborating. Hardly anybody does anything by themselves. So much more fun to do things together. And so the thrive piece is the many to many relationships. So the A is me and myself. The connect is one to one or one to many. And the T is the system. So it's the many to many relationships. In my world, all the leaders that I work with work globally. And so their teams are dispersed in multiple locations. So you gave an example, John, that at the water cooler or at the coffee, like people used to speak and you get ideas and whatever. And we don't have that anymore so much because the people that I'm working with, they're all over the world. And so their teams are in 3 different places, if not more. And then sometimes also the teams that they're working with. So the teams don't work in silence. It's a team of teams have to work well together. And the more that the teams work well together, that's true mindful leadership, conscious leadership, then the company thrives. And so my big role in my work every day is not working on the breathing and not working on, even that's important. A lot of people do that. What I help the leaders I'm coaching do is to figure out a way to create more space so that they can actually be more business-like. That's the business, that's the team, and help their teams to be more business-like. Because the truth is that in any company today, if the company is not thriving, you're not going to have a job, and people are going to be laid off. Now, you'll be surprised, but I actually have a few nonprofits. And it's exactly the same there. You would think that in a nonprofit, everything is, we're helping these people. It's not like that. It's just as hard as in the corporate world, just as hard. As an example, I have a client that his whole team is now going to be let go and they're going to outsource everything. And this is after actually he promised his team, now he needs to go back and start retrenching. And so mindful leadership is so important because it helps us be our best self. It helps us be calm and bring trust into the world, because a big part of mindfulness is like trusting in your moment and knowing that, I don't know, you'll be where you're meant to be. And whatever happens to you, you can handle that when you practice mindfulness, because everything is a gift. Every moment is a gift.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said. And I definitely think that as soon as we remove the competition and we work into collaboration, it already calms the nervous system. And I think that's important. Looking at the future is bringing in that collaboration, is bringing in that how do we work best? And I don't believe we're separate from our businesses, because the energy, the blueprint is the same. And if there's something within us that is not well, it absolutely reflects it in the external world as well, which is beautiful. And I love that. I've been working a lot on, I do a lot of work in the Akashic records, and it's beautiful in the sense that in order to receive the information, one needs to be at this point of zero, the nothingness, that space where it's everything and nothing. And that's where we're allowed for all those possibilities to jump into that space of like that mindfulness aspect of it. And I think it's so beautiful that if we start to bring that in, we have more clarity of how to respond. And I think that you spoke a little bit earlier about how we all look externally because it's too hard to look internally. And I noticed that with a lot of my clients during COVID, they're so used to being busy outside of themselves because it didn't give them an opportunity to look within. So they found those 2 years of COVID extremely taxing because there's nowhere to go but within. And I think we're starting to look at that space as we now move into AIs coming in. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of retrenchment, a lot of opportunity, as you say, to pivot, to reinvent. But we need to know who we are internally. And I think that pause, that slowing down, that going, okay, who am I? Why am I here? How do I respond? And the beautiful thing of kind of like tying it back to that 0 point is, I see the heart as the 0 point, as Jon was saying as well, that very much being heart led, because even if we look at it from a space of chakra, it's the middle chakra that connects the higher chakras to the physical chakras. It's that 0 point. And a lot of us think it's that unconditional love, but to be at that 0 point is the unconditional love aspect of it, because you allow anything to be possible. And you choose with your heart which is in alignment. And I love that you're bringing that into that space of leadership, and how do we navigate these times, and knowing that it will be okay because everything fits into that perfect timing. And in that sense as well, what do you think about constantly attracting towards us that next step, even though sometimes it feels out of control, but we're always completely in control, even when we're allowing that out of control to be there. So what could you say to these mindful leaders to allow a little bit of that space to flow, to be in that space of neutral, kind of like how your client said, I'm going to park all of this of what I think about this client, and I'm going to go into it with a neutral space. And what a beautiful meeting she had. And how do we adapt that to everyday business?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Natasha. So important. So I have many micro habits that are helpful, and some of them we've already spoken about, and I'll be sharing more as we move forward. I do think that we all need a guide. So we need a guide, we need a mentor or a coach or a therapist or a teacher. And that person could be a virtual, like listening to a podcast and having a teacher that's not a personal teacher. But we need somebody to take us to our next level. So a big part of my work is helping people move to a next level, mentally, emotionally, physically, and also spiritually. And so to be able to receive, we need to be in a place where we can receive. And so either we can get ourselves into that place with help, or we need extra help. And so it may be one-on-one and it may be like virtually. And everybody has different things that can help them. So maybe let me just stop and say, have I answered some of the question? Let me just pause a second and
Yes.
okay. So do you want to continue to ask me? Because I just want to be focused on what you asked me.
So one of the part of it is, how do we slow that down into that to that nothingness? Do you have a micro habit that we could, besides meditation or besides connecting into our breath?
Yeah. So I do think that if you know, to live today, we do want to move forward. Okay. So we want to continually be moving forward, but we want to also look back. So we learn by looking back, and we want to feel comfortable to look forward, look back, that reflection piece. So the way I work with mindful leadership and conscious leadership is to meet the person where they are. So if there's a person that doesn't like to rest, don't rest. But let's find something that works for you. So a lot of people like to walk and they like to do exercise. So the exercise would look like, for 5 minutes, just put your phone in your pocket and just connect with nature. So it could be, nature's wonderful for healing, and we all need to heal. Okay, we all have wounds, we all have energy that we need to, we have to clear our energy continuously, because within the system is very messy. And so we have to continually be clearing our energy. And so either somebody else needs to be doing that, or we need to know to do that. And one way we can do that is by being in nature. And so even if you've got a park where you can feel yourself walking on the ground, look at the different colors. Like I'm looking out my window now, I see blue. I see leaves blowing on a tree, and I can breathe. This is a mindfulness practice. And then I say just slow your step down just a little bit more than your regular speed, and try and get out of your head and just into the present moment, and just do that. And then what's going to happen is life will happen. So there'll be a noise there. Okay, kids playing. Oh, great. I noticed, kids playing. So you can go there, and then you go back again into the body, into the next step, the next breath. You breathe with your experience. It's not just about breathing, it's about bringing the breath into whatever you're doing. And so our breath is our anchor with whatever we're doing. And so I love colors. So noticing the colors around you and just being, we don't know how to be. We know how to do. We're human doings. We're not human beings. And so one of the practices is trying to, and what I do try and do is to get people to, even during their day, if they're in the office or at home, to get up off their chairs and go for a walk. Some of their meetings will be on the phone, but walking. To move the body is a very good way to get out negative energy. It's very important. And so if part of their walking that's maybe on the phone, like 1 minute of it can be just breathing, connecting, and then starting the call. And then the same thing when the call finishes, again, just not going into the next thing, but just like checking, how am I right now? That's it. And then if you notice, I'm feeling really bad, I'm feeling anxious, I have a headache, don't be scared of it. It's okay. It's okay, it's normal. And it's good that you noticed it. Okay, so now what? What's the next step, to use your words, Natasha?
Mhm.
What's the next step if I've noticed that I've got a headache and my heart is closed and I'm really feeling scared? What is my next step? And so depending on, the maturity of the leader, will work on some of the stuff, or they'll have their teacher to work on it, or whoever can help you. We need to know how to shift through any state. And it's
Mhm.
normal to feel fear. It's normal to have disappointment. It's normal. All of these are gifts. So we want to receive it all, but we don't want to get stuck there. We want to be continually be able to come back to, as Jon said, the open heart, to be receiving, to be being able to bring love into the world, to being able to bring light into the world, being able to open up minds. And so for that, we need to really, the first thing is to manage ourselves before we can even manage anybody else.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. I love those micro habits. They're fantastic. Um, so thank you for that. I want to talk about our world. Um, and one thing I've been doing recently in my work is um, psychic predictions, which I wasn't used to doing, and using the Akashic records and more. And it's quite, in business perspective, it's quite woo-woo. It's out there, right? And yet, what I these themes that keep coming up, and these are also themes I ask my ever increasing ever increasing YouTube subscribers. Hello, everyone. Thank you
Mhm.
for subscribing. I've been asking them for their feedback as well. What are you worried about that's changing in the world right now and in the future? And the themes are vast, right? There we see an unsustainable planet ultimately, and we're scared. We're scared as a human race that we're busy, 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 and we're destroying our health individually and collectively. We're sharing our families and eroding friendships and families and communities, and that we're destroying natural habitats, and that there's this kind of greed element that we're playing to in part of all of us, and it is causing this where it feels like we're running faster and faster towards our own ultimate extinction at some point. And whilst all that's happening, the Earth is doing lots of stuff, and the sun is now kicking off as well. The sun, there's a lot of activity, and it leaves a lot of people feeling in a very difficult situation in their lives because all these other things, at them, all these other external influences pushing at them when they're really just trying to, earn money so that they can look after their loved ones and hopefully at some point between the two have some sort of quality of life. And I see businesses going through this what I perceive as a very brittle transformation. First of all, most businesses are not aware of this. And then secondly, I would say a lot of perception, for instance, with things like mindful leadership is that it is, well, wouldn't that be nice? Maybe my people might complain less to me. Maybe my, people scores or whatever my KPIs are for people might go up. Maybe even my sickness would reduce. But what they don't realize is that there's also a competitor that's moved in called AI. It doesn't matter if it's better at you than your job or not, but it's another influence where we're saying to ourselves, if you're just going to be busy, I think I can automate a lot of that. And frankly, it doesn't matter that it's worse because I don't value as a busyness, I don't value the things that are magical about you because you're not doing anything magic. You're just scared and running fast all the time and you're burning yourself out. And I feel that really our opportunity as a human race, as we reconnect back with our hearts, is that we can create well beyond and solve so many of the problems that we face, just stepping off that hamster wheel and taking a breath and feeling, oh, hang on, we all have loved ones. We all as a human race face these same challenges. And and rightly so that these older brittle systems and ways of working should fall. Like they will, if they don't damage our own health that we're doing to ourselves individually, it's going to cause a lot of problems as it is globally. And I was really fascinated on your view, and this is a big question, Sam, right? It's just your view of like the future. So, what is the future of business? And it's I think my question is less of a prediction and more about how do you feel the direction would be most beneficial for business to in its journey away from busyness.
Mm. Yeah, so if I go back to the model of the ACT, the T is the thrive piece,
Mhm.
where we're thriving instead of surviving. So for the business to thrive, um, and for the people within it to thrive, my belief is to try and build the level of consciousness and build up the level of consciousness within the organization. And a lot of leaders have a lot of power and are influential also outside of the organization. And so the more people that care around the climate and care that, let's say, AI, try and, that there'll be ethics around AI. The more the more that we are trying to make our world a better place, I think that that's all we can do. So when I'm working with a group or with a team, I need to meet them where they are. I can't meet them 5 steps ahead. And so I think it's for even who's ever listening now to first of all, like ask yourself, do you care? And what do you care about? And so just starting there with small steps because everything's energy. And so if you shift something, like even like 0.0001%, it's going to have an effect not only on you, your team, it's going to have effect on the world actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're doing now is having an effect on the world. And so, and it can become a ripple effect when there's enough movement in a positive, more love, more light. And so all of us can take it upon ourselves. So for example, with me, I have my own spiritual teacher. And she said she sees what's going on, even in homes. Like kids today are on their screens, okay? They're not even busy. They're by themselves. They don't go out and play so much. And so she said, enough. I'm not teaching you. You need to go into teaching within your road. So I live in a village. And so um, I've partnered with somebody in my village. And what we do is we have like a small group where we work on resilience, we work on conscious leadership, and we have a model. It doesn't matter what, but we're affecting the small group of women that will, have an influence on their families, on their community. And so that's what I know to do. Somebody else that's passionate about, climate, that knows that they can go and maybe talk about, plastics, and everybody from where you are, we can all do so much. The people that are most successful today that have joy in their hearts are not doing one thing. They have very full lives and there's a lot of contribution and sometimes the contribution's okay if it's only in your family. So just be where you need to be now. If where you need to be now is looking after yourself because you have too much anxiety or you have a kid that has, then that's where your place is, and that's okay. If everything's okay at home and things are going well where you live, and you're in a position of power within your company and you have energy for it, then what do you want to do? Not tomorrow, in the next hour, you know? And so that's where I'm coming from. We all can be so much more. But we need to have a teacher, we need to have a coach, we need to have a therapist. It depends on who we are. To move us to the next level, we can't do it by ourselves. And the guide may be from another life, if you know how to tap into that. But I mean, I don't usually talk about that, but I know that's your field. But
Sorry.
my clients are not there
Absolutely.
yet. Yeah.
No, I
Excellent.
absolutely love that. And it's it's if we want to see that external change, it has to start with us. And I do a lot of ancestral work. And it's beautiful in the sense that the work that we do, even if we just do it to ourselves, with ourselves, for ourselves, it heals the 7 generations before. And it heals the 7 generations that are to come as well, which is an indigenous theory. And it's not only that, it changes the people around us, which in turn shifts the world. And I absolutely agree with, we all have that beautiful blueprint of what drives our passion. So it's falling into that. So if it is climate, if it is whatever it may be, do that, because it's about following our joy. A lot of the times we try and fit into this framework of what we think other people or our parents or whatever think it would be. And we live life for other people and not ourselves. And I think that's where a lot of the anxiety also starts to come in as well, in that sense. But I also think that the future of business will have a resident coach, mindful leader, psychologist on the team to support people, whether it's part of an HR department, whether it's independently. But I think that in the future, especially conscious businesses will have that support for their team, because I feel that being in that space of calm is that space of creativity, as both of you have been saying. And it's time that we start giving from overflow, not from burnout, because I think we're all moving from that space of giving from empty. And I think by having this, we learn to fuel ourselves first, and then we're more creative. We bring up solutions that are more adapt. We move faster as well. If the busyness is conscious busy, it's flow. It's not this forced kind of like I have a deadline. It's that flow of what is in space, is what I've tended to see. Samantha, how can people get a hold of you? We need to have you back again. There's so many other topics to talk about. How can people get a hold of you?
Thank you for asking, Natasha. So first of all, through you, yeah, maybe there'll be a link in your notes.
Absolutely.
I'm on LinkedIn a lot because I work in the leadership space. And so Samantha Amit on LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube channel, and I do lives both on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and so they're there. And on Instagram a little bit, from time to time on Twitter, but I'm trying to focus. So my main places are YouTube and LinkedIn. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I feel it's as Natasha says, just the start. I'm going to subscribe to the channel just now. So
Me too.
before I forget, I'm excited too. And just so powerful. It's so inspiring to meet someone who is helping change organizations within, because this world changes with all of us, right? From within each of us. And there's absolutely more than hope. Like, we are super creative, well beyond whatever we think we're told when we're younger. And I do feel that the more we connect with, Natasha touched on it, fueling ourselves first, with our family, our joy, our passions, our love, the things. I'm realizing in my business, these are the things that fuel my success. Like when I'm doing work, even for a 1 hour, live stream or whatever it is I'm creating, when I'm fully fueled, and I feel like about a 9 out of 10 at the moment, almost a little bit. I'm not sure what happens when I hit 10 in my energy level. It's incredible to feel. and yet grounded and with clear purpose. And I do think, one of my um, uh, appeals to our audience is that if you're working in a job for someone else, figure out in this world what you do want. Like, what would you like? And because you're not going to change the world overnight, or you might have some big leaps and transformations, but know that once you decide what you want, you can then start to ask yourself questions like, oh, is this company aligned with that? Can I help influence the company towards that? And there often it's the very small things you do that make a huge difference. And I loved your answer to almost an impossibly difficult question. So thank you, Sam.
Also because I left my corporate world and you did too, because of like the radical change that happened to me, I really wanted to help people. And at the same time, what I want to do today is actually help people stay at work, because if they have a value of responsibility, I mean, you stayed for all those years because of your value of responsibility. And a lot of, the people I serve are, being able to send their kids to universities and being able to, some of them are supporting their families and parents. And so you can actually create a shift in your company that you're in right now. So you need to see, first of all, the acts. You do need to look after yourself and then start with your team. And a lot of people, they're really doing well with their team. So then it's actually trying to work on the team of teams approach. And when you do that, you create a shift within the company. So, yes, the company can bring in coaches, but you can even listen to podcasts, and there's so much out there. We're very, very blessed today. And we can create a lot of positive change within the organizations that we're in, and then create for ourselves a path. Let's say we want to leave. You can't always, like, let's say you know what your purpose is and you know what you want to do. You can't always leave straight away. So part of that is patience, part of it is learning. So I can learn, I can volunteer, I can, in my spare time on the weekends, maybe, learn more about this other business that I want to move into. And so there's so much opportunity today, especially with, everything being available to us. And for sure, connecting to your inner joy is like, it's like the ABC. So connecting to your joy, and if you can't, then you need to figure out how I'm going to bring myself back to center so that I can access that love, that I can access the joy. And so if you are feeling if you're feeling like you can't access the happiness or joy, it's very fleeting, then that's also another reason why you need, some kind of support.
Yeah.
And it could come from simple things, but not just like, I work a lot with myself on resistance, because I'm always like resisting. Like I see like the stain, I see the hole in the wall. And so I'm training my brain all the time to see that like as a small little thing, and like I see the yellow instead of seeing the little black dot, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. We're so trained to see that black dot, right? And then we can't unsee it after seeing
Yeah.
that, right? So it's a great practice, I
Yeah.
think. Shall we drop into a quick meditation?
I'd love
No
Sure.
that.
pressure. Let's just see. Let's see how we get on. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. And I'm also going to invite you that as you exhale, release the tension, the stress. And as you breathe in, drop into your body. And you do this by bringing your attention from the outside world internally. And focus, what does it feel like? Nowhere to go, nothing to do, but just to be here and now. Finding a rhythm of breathing that is in alignment with you. And I'm going to invite you to drop into your heart. That space between nothing and everything that exists within your heart. Finding that 0 point. The ultimate being. And from this space, we're going to ask the question: what fuels me? What do I really care about? What brings me joy? What do I love? And as you connect into that space of love, going to ask you to amplify that feeling. And allow it to vibrate through every single cell within your body. And expand it beyond your physical form. So that you are vibrating at that frequency of love. Allow it to feed, to nourish, to nurture every aspect of you. And I do the same with the frequency of joy. Allow it to run through every single cell, moving it beyond your body. Every cell, every aspect of you, physical, etheric, mental, and emotional, vibrating at the frequency of joy. One more. access the frequency, if you can, of gratitude. Expand it from your heart out through every single cell within your body. Beyond your physical into your auric field. The frequency of gratitude. And now let's bring that back into the heart space. And let's ask, what is one thing I can do today that will allow me to be more mindful and lead my life or my team from a place of love, from a place of joy, and from a place of gratitude? And give thanks to the experience, to the knowledge, to the wisdom of you. And take a deep breath. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. Write down whatever you had, the information, and make sure you follow it today. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Natasha.
Mm.
You're welcome.
I am fueled by love, and then I was even more saturated with joy. And this, I have an action after this to not do too much this afternoon. I already have just my work is already really, really exciting, and just not to overdo it, which was really lovely. Um, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Samantha, for coming on
Thank
today. It's
you.
just so wonderful to meet you, and to go into some, quite difficult topics that our world changes. And just thank you so much for your service to so many people and helping change people's lives. As you said, it's a butterfly effect. Even just one micro mindful practice can make such a huge difference in one person and many's, and we all have an opportunity to lead by example. So definitely be in touch uh, to chat again with you. And yeah,
Yes.
thank you once again. I will make sure that your details are in the description of the video, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, there's a whole range of different platforms, then just check out the description of the podcast as well. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.